Hey, welcome to Diary on One podcast. I am your host, Akakandelwa Kandepwe, also known as Akak. Every single time when we did the rebrand, I think that we have shifted in the type of conversations we're having, which is exciting on my end and the team's end, because every time we record with somebody new, it's so interesting, and just the experience we are having just in the background as well is amazing. So I thought I would mention that the past few weeks have been amazing for us, and getting into this episode is somebody I actually admire and know very well. So today's guest is an engineer, a future legal counsel, public speaker trainer, and media entrepreneur and published author. Again, we all know I like books, right? With a background that spans nuclear power, engineering, and law, he has built a reputation that is versatile and driven professionals beyond their technical expertise. He is very passionate about communication and leadership, and is helping other people or individuals find their voice and express their ideas with confidence. Today's guest is Solomon Valor Mulanda. Hi, Vala.
Hi, Aka. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, Mr. Vala?
I'm doing very well.
I know you very well, and I am always happy to have a conversation with somebody I know, but very scared because I'm trying my best to not to fall into my default setting. But I also feel like a lot of people will enjoy this conversation if just they experience us the way we experience each other on any given day.
Yes.
So now in my head, I'm like, okay, it's a recording. I really need to make sure I pick on this person's brain and make sure my audience loves this conversation. But again, thank you so much for saying yes. I know it wasn't a very hard yes, but again, it's still a yes, and it's something I'm very grateful for.
No, it's my pleasure, Aka. It's my pleasure. I really enjoy sharing my knowledge about communication and life experiences. So when the invitation came, I was like, wow, finally at last.
Well, this invitation happened in your house.
That's a good part.
It was like one of those, by the way, conversations like, we should. And I'm like, of course, those are small issues. And I'm just glad we didn't involve my assistants. And it was just me saying, you are doing this, and let's find a way of making this happen.
That's a good part of knowing people, is you can jump certain steps and still get the things done.
True. When you look at your current life right now, what's something you have been thinking of and you're grateful for?
When I look at my current life, honestly, I didn't anticipate that I'll be here. Because first of all, like you earlier mentioned, I'm a nuclear power engineer and thermophysics by profession. One thing that I was sure about was I was going to do law. But regarding communication, it just came as something that I enjoyed so much. Having joined Toastmasters when I was still in university pursuing my first degree in my second year, and rising to the level of a president in just 1 year, has taught me that sometimes we don't even plan how our life is going to be. Because after competing in 2025 for the Southern African Speech Contest and emerging as one of the best speakers in Southern African region, I realized the gap that is in the world, technical knowledge, and how they can convey that technical knowledge in ideas, presence, and sound, which is communication. Most of the people can't communicate. And having built the company now, the Valas Training Institute, which is helping individuals, when I see how they grow just after passing through our training, it's really something that I'm grateful about. I never anticipated that I would impact such hundreds of lives. But when I look at the impact and what they are doing after the training, I'm grateful for what has transpired and what I'm doing right now. in the communication space?
I hear a lot of people talk about communication a lot, and communication is in different phases, right? It's articulated differently, and my work mostly, because we work together most of the time as well, is how do you put different skill sets to help an individual grow? That's my specialty, and you focus on communication, and you didn't even know that this maybe at the time you might not have known that this is a powerhouse and we might use it. So when was it the time that you realized that you could actually make money from using your communication skill or your public speaking skill? And is it just about speaking, or there are other elements to it that one should know about?
So when I was doing the speech contest and being a member of Toastmasters, I've been a member of Toastmasters now for 7 years. I realized how people are very knowledgeable, they are experienced, they have work experience. But one thing that I realized was other people are coming from a background of traumatic experiences that have affected their communication. How has it affected their communication? You find that when they stand to speak, they feel like they're not worth listening to because of what maybe someone told them in the past. Maybe someone told them that you're not as beautiful as your friends, and that affected how they feel about themselves. Remember, with communication, it's not just about sound, which is your voice. It's about presence, it's about conveying emotions. And if your emotions are not settled, you are not controlling your emotions, how you feel about yourself, definitely you're going not to touch lives. So regarding that, I realized that a lot of people, it's not that they are not good speakers. They do not understand how they can do it. My mentor always said that there are public talkers and public speakers. A public talker is one that just produces a voice. They have the voice. They can speak, but they don't understand what they're doing. And on the other side, a public speaker is one that understands exactly what they're doing, the emotions that they want to convey, and the message that they're trying to put across, which means they can replicate the same effect over and over and convey their message with impact. So I realized that a lot of people do not understand these basics, how they can get rid of their amygdala, which is in charge of when we feel nervous, when we are trying to speak, then our body starts shaking. How we can control our message. I realize that people do not understand. It's not just about public speaking. It's also about executive praises. How do you get to a point where before you even speak, people just look at you and attest to the fact that that person is confident? Not confidence in terms of arrogance, confidence because you know what you want to do and you know your stuff very well. So aside from communication, we do sales, developing your executive presence, etiquettes, among many other things, and customer service. So when I realized that a lot of people lack the knowledge in these areas, I said, okay, this is a good business, and it has been a good business. We have worked with Kansanshi, we have worked with Cavendish, UNOPS, and yesterday we did a training for Cooper's young girls. It was beautiful, knowing and realizing that this is something that people need. Everyone needs good communication.
You've actually mentioned a few stuff that now that I work and I'm in certain environments, I see lack and not built in homes. Certain things, yeah, we are taught when we're being raised, but then you get to realize that certain skill sets are no longer taught in a household level. For example, etiquette. It's something that we're not having a lot of conversations on in our homes, and I got to realize the difference is when I was being raised by my grandparents, there are certain things that we're being taught as just like basic manners, and I think they fall under etiquette, and I live by those things now. But I see the difference with my younger sister, who's being raised by my mom, that there are just certain things she doesn't know because my mom doesn't think it's important for her to know. But then when you grow up as an adult, you get to realize that it's a funny thing actually. So I can talk about this. Every time I walk into my boss's office, obviously I knock. I walk in and he's seated, and I don't sit. Like, I wait for him to say, "Oh, you may sit." And I also realized that I used to do that even in high school when I go to any office now. Like, I'm always like, if you don't ask me to sit, like, why am I sitting? So I always get confused that, am I supposed to be asked to sit, or am I just automatically assume I'm welcome and sit? Basic manners, basic etiquette, and there's just a way things should run when it's an office, when it's at home, when it's everything in between. What's your take on that? Because it's something that I find strange that people sit when they're not taught to sit, and they find strange that I don't sit until I'm told to.
You see, those are what we call, and you have called them, basic manners. What if that seat is not reserved for you?
True.
Then you just go ahead and sit. What if that is a monument and no one is required to sit there? So you wait because that is not your office. That is not your office. And you may prevent something bad from happening. Maybe the chair is not safe for sitting. When you wait to be told where to sit, you prevent being asked to stand up again and wait for another seat. Etiquettes are simply things that allow us to show people that we respect them and that we are aware that we are in certain spaces where we have to act a certain way. Sometimes we can even take it to time management. Those are also basic manners. You're told that the meeting is going to be at 10 hours, and 10 hours, that is when you're starting off from your place. You take 3 hours to get to the meeting, or even 40 minutes. People are tired. Once you find yourself in that situation, just know that you need to work on your basic manners because people's time must be respected. Basic manners can also be just maintaining the professional decorum to foster positive outcomes. It's not everyone that you're supposed to be friends with. You can't be friends with your boss. Yes, on rare occasion it can be like that, but there are certain words that you can't use when talking to your boss. Those are what we also call basic manners. So etiquettes are important because they are more like principles that allow us to interact with others in a positive manner. Projecting confidence is also a basic etiquette. It's basic manners. Why are you nervous? Why are you apologetic when you are required to be confident when you're in the room? Those are basic etiquettes. So on that one, my take is that when you haven't been shown where to sit, don't sit. Wait for it, because even me, I was taught. And it works for our own benefit because that is not our space. It is someone else's space.
Yeah, that's a great take because I find a lot of stuff strange, but and yeah, no, I think now we joke around a lot to say, oh my goodness, we were raised differently. We're raised differently, and we come in a society where everybody's raised differently and we experience things differently. But then the only thing that's different now is we're not teaching people basic manners. So in the next generation that we're not raised by the bloomers, is a lot of us will lack basic manners. And I don't even know how society will work. It's like, which makes the Valas Institute a very lucrative business, because in the near future, a lot of people would still have to, society will still bring them to the point where they do see there's a gap. and they do need to learn etiquette, public speaking, sales, or just even how to brand themselves as professionals. So again, I have experienced some of the services, and I think that I have improved. I don't think I'm as drastic as everybody, because I was about to say I'm a little shy, but that's a lie. But because it's me, I take stuff really differently. Yeah. I have experienced your public speaking sessions, and I think that there are certain basics that any young person should know, or any young professional should know, before they get into the industry or before they leave university or whatever they are doing. My question for you is, what are the 5 basics a young individual should have when it comes to communication skills?
The 5 basics that a young person or young professional should have for basic communication. First of all, one is that they must know that communication is one thing that is going to elevate them. So that is the first principle that they must understand. Without communication, your elevation is limited. I can imagine this situation where everyone has a degree in nuclear power engineering. Let's say we are 20 of us that have a degree in nuclear power engineering. We're being interviewed. What do you think is going to determine the interviewers select a person? They're just looking for 2.
How you communicate, or how you conduct yourself in that interview.
How you communicate and conduct yourself in that interview. Yes, how you communicate and conduct yourself in the interview is going to determine what decision they should make. Because remember, all of you are qualified. That's why you are called for interviews. But the person that is going to be chosen is one that can express themselves, express their value and their ideas with eloquence and while remaining composed. So the first thing that they must have is the ability to understand that communication is not an option. It's a must-have. The second thing that they should have is that they need to eliminate filler words. Filler words are words like you know, yeah, like I was saying. No, we don't know what you are saying. We don't know. Oh, you know. Those are what we call resting words. And as basic communication, because may be inappropriate to be used. Yeah, so. Not everyone understands that language. It is being used as a place or as a point to think about another point or another phrase. So instead of using that filler word, pause. You appear more confident and you have more clarity. So the third point that they must have, young professionals must have and understand, is lack of preparation. Lack of preparation has costed a lot of people opportunities. And sometimes we think and comfort ourselves that it was not just my time. No, whatever that God has given you, it will always come. No. There are certain opportunities that we have lost because we didn't prepare. As a young profession, understand that even communication is supposed to be prepared for. How well vested are you in your field? Can you express your field? Can you articulate your field with clarity? Can you tell your story, what drives you, with clarity? And that stems from a foundation of preparation. You have to be prepared. It's more or less, I appear on this podcast without preparation, without any clarity of what I do. So preparation is one of the things that will require basic communication as one of the components that a basic communicator should have. Then the fourth one is always know that it's not about you, but the message. It's not about you, but the message. Because sometimes we get into a zone where we're judging ourselves. And this is a major part that even executives are struggling with. They have not accepted who they are. As such, every time they stand to speak, they think about how they are sounding, how they look. No, it's not like that. Your message is more important than how you look. Accept yourself, accept what you can't change. Then you get rid of that traumatic experience that you have had, the words that they spoke about you in the past that are not really the reality of yourself. Then the last thing now that you must have as a basic communication tool is that you must be able to induce what I call the angel's cocktail. This is a powerful way of commanding presence every time you speak. You must possess the ability to induce dopamine, endorphin, and oxytocin. This will allow, even when you're handling interviews, be able to command the presence or attention of the interviewers. Dopamine, you are trying to increase the focus and the memory of your audience. Oxytocin, it's called the laughing hormone. You add some humor. Even when it's a serious conversation, you can add humor there that is appropriate. Endorphin, you're trying to build connection. You're trying to build connection with your audience and empathy. They can relate to your message. So these are the basic 5 communication tools that a young professional or young person can have. Communication is basic, but you must understand it. And Aka must make mention that communication is not just about English, speaking English. I've seen people misunderstanding this. It's in every language, whether you're speaking Lozi, whether you're speaking Bemba, you're speaking Nyanja, you're speaking Swahili, you are speaking Russian. Communication is the ability to convey your ideas, thoughts through sound and presence. Same. Your goal is to be understood. And these are things that affect our communication. The 5 basic principles that a person or a young profession can have.
I like that. And I think that listening to you speak, I always see where my gap is when I'm trying to communicate. I think I have improved with the filler words, preparation. Everything else, I just don't prepare. I might have the biggest meeting, but I also realize that every time I prepare, the meeting goes so well compared to when I don't prepare. And I think that anyone could tell the difference between when I'm well informed and when I'm not. When I'm just using my brain and I didn't have the courtesy to just put my thoughts together. So the 5 basics make so much sense. And I think that anyone that's listening to this episode should really jot them down to just say, okay, I really need these 5 basics, but preparation is one of my favorites, and I know that's something I am always lacking in. But thank you so much for mentioning it. I think I'm just like, okay, I really need to start preparing more. The good thing is I'm always prepared for the podcast, surprisingly. It's never a time I'm not prepared. And I like the podcast because when I'm not prepared for the podcast, I don't do it.
Yes.
I even say I'm not prepared. Why would I do it? So I would be like, oh, sorry, send my regards to the guest. I can't do it. I'm not prepared to have this guest yet. But yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Mr. Vala, in your opinion, what makes a great leader?
In my opinion, what makes a great leader? You see, leadership, I see a lot of people thinking leadership is about a title or it's about leading a group of people. What makes a great leader is one that is able to lead themselves. If you are able to lead yourself, you can lead others. What do I mean by that? If you're not able to manage your own time, your own resources, how do you expect to manage other people's lives and their resources? Imagine you have been wasteful with your own resources. You lack time management. You lack etiquettes. You can't commit and discipline yourself to work on your communication skills. How do you expect you're going to help hundreds of people, leading them, being in charge of their lives through decision making that you make? So, what makes a great leader is one that can lead themselves. If a person can be able to lead themselves, they are able to sit themselves down and say, I think this is not in right standing with our values. Because remember, it's leading yourself. Even sitting yourself down is leading yourself. And once it starts at a personal level, you extend it to the family level. You are able to extend those qualities. You care for them because you are able to lead yourself. And don't mistake a title with leadership. I've read a book, A Leader Without a Title. A Leader Without a Title, such a magical book. One of the best books that I've ever read. It says, titles come and go, but leadership still remains. The sense of responsibility and being able to discipline yourself, take certain actions, make you a great leader. But what we observe is people that fail to lead themselves, fail to discipline themselves, fail to manage their own resources, posing and vying for public office. To me, what makes a great leader is one that is able to lead themselves and one that does not depend on a title to be conferred on them. That's when they start acting in a particular way. Leadership starts at a personal level, and people that are able to lead themselves lead well.
I always like to think that the world would be a better place if people started taking responsibility for themselves. Like if we could all start at individual level, I as Aka, you as Solomon, what am I supposed to do to make the world a better place? And then grow from that to say, who can I work with? I think it's that song that says, look at the man in the mirror. Yeah, man in the mirror. Where before you point at somebody else, it should be you first that you think of, then everybody. Because you can't, like you mentioned, if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others. And also, you can't fill someone else's cup if your cup is empty.
Yes.
So there's so many analogies we could actually talk about this when it comes to leadership and just more of personal responsibility is
Yes.
If you don't have that as an individual, you can't go to somebody else and say, oh my goodness, you did that, but do you see what you do? So it's like, before you point a finger, what about yourself? I think that's just like a really good take on leadership is you can't really lead others if you can't lead yourself. So what are you doing as an individual before you start pointing fingers at other people?
Yeah.
When it comes to young people, my podcast is targeted to young people, and I think it's one of my favorite conversations. It's just trying to understand how us young people are making decisions and how we're leading our life. I know there's so much talk about us in so many spaces, but on your take, what's one thing we are struggling with as young people?
So on my take, one thing that we're struggling with is lack of identity. Lack of identity. Lack of identity has costed a lot of people. It's the one where when I see Aka driving a very expensive car, I'm moved and I'm willing to do anything to have that car, even when I don't have the capacity to do that. A lot of people now are not living authentic lives. And this has pushed them in a situation where instead of investing their resources for a better tomorrow, they are eating their resources because they saw Aka going for a vacation in Cape Town. As such, they want to experience the same things. But my question is, with which sacrifice are you willing to let go of your beautiful future just because you saw a TikTok being posted, someone driving an expensive car? You haven't even proved that that car belongs to them. So lack of identity has forced a lot of young people make certain decisions just because they saw their friend doing the same thing. It's surprising. It's heartbreaking. Just because someone saw a person being bought iPhone 17, they're also willing to go out with a sugar daddy because they want the same. Lack of identity. But once a young person knows exactly who they are and what they want to get out of this life, they'll restrain themselves to do certain things in order for them to have a better life that they've always envisioned. And lack of identity has also costed people marrying wrong people because for some strange reasons, they saw their friend, they saw their colleague taking or making a certain decision without questioning what is the cost of that decision. They followed suit. But when you know your principles, you know who you are, you know how different you are, you question certain decisions that you're about to make. So one thing that a lot of young people are struggling with is lack of identity.
Which is true. I think that there's always a trend going on, and I don't think I'm a trendy person. Honestly, I stay away from trends because I can't keep up. You know, like I can't keep up with the new phone. I can't afford it. I can't keep up with vacations. I
Yes.
just can't keep up because I have other responsibilities, other things I'm working towards. And
Yes.
it took a while for me as an individual to accept that I can't keep up. And since I can't keep up, I have to make sure I'm not in certain environments that might entice me to want to keep up.
That's
That's
the
why
thing.
famously people would be like, you're not seen. Exactly. Because every environment you're in induces something. So if you can't keep up with trends, you shouldn't be part of that environment that might induce a certain trend. There's one environment I love, which is the advocacy environment, where they talk about the different types of issues or communities might be going through: climate change, education. Like, it's very trendy. And I told myself earlier on, I think by 2020, I like to say this story a lot. I just told myself I can't keep up. My brain can't move so fastly in changing what I'm advocating for. Because the non-profit space is very trendy, depending on what's on the table, depending on what's being funded. So yeah, I think the lack of identity it's very important. I was in that space. I tried keeping up. I couldn't. You have to experience certain spaces for you to realize that this is not for me right now, which is also fine. I think one problem I face with people or young people is you're in a space that's not for you, and you want to be in that space because everybody in that space, or maybe Aka is in that space, or Eunice is in that space, or Solomon is in that space, or I saw somebody I like and admire is in that space. But like you mentioned, you don't know exactly how they are in that space. I could be in a space and no energy at all, right? Like I could be there and not be there. No one would really notice. You know what I mean? But the lack of identity that we're facing is, when do I do something and when do I don't? Like, people don't have that feel of in touch with the present anyway, where am I supposed to do this now or not? Or am I supposed to be cheering for other people from afar? I think that's a skill set that's not being built. And also because of social media, the assumption is we're all doing great. We're all doing great. Kylie, we post our lives on social media. And now you get to meet the people. Some are actually doing great and some are not. So you're like, why are we feeding the algorithm? And as somebody that's not doing great or is trying to find the identity, when is it time for me to get in a space and not get in a space? Or when is it time for me to just be somebody taking notes, people in the space? You can be in the space and just notice everything and how the game is being played and realize, can I play that game or not? And if I can't, should I leave or should I learn to play the game? Yeah, so it's such a great take that you have on lack of identity. What's one skill set one should build to try to find the identity?
Thank you so much, Aka, for that question. Before I answer the question, what is that one skill set that one should have as they are finding their identity, I would like to share a personal story. So I walked into the political space because I wanted to understand, and I was standing for Chilenjo Ward 8 councillor. When I got into the space, I realized a lot of things were off what I stand for. So the people on the ground would like you to buy them alcohol, which is not wrong if that is part of your personality. You are comfortable with it. But for me, I don't drink, I don't smoke. Therefore, it posed as a threat to my own personality, because even if you don't take that steps, they will consider that you are not a great leader. And sometimes when a space pushes you to have a different personality, just know that it's not your space. It's not your space, because to me, it started giving me negative ways of doing things. I started becoming a stranger to my own self. And there posed a very big decision that I needed to make, despite having made waves on the ground. And people knowing that, oh, we are going with this person, we're going with this person, we're going with this person. But the question is, what are you becoming by the end of the day? Just like you spoke, just because everyone is in the space doesn't mean that is where you belong. The question is, are you comfortable to be in the space? Or you're just doing it for the numbers? You're doing it for relevance. If you're doing it for relevance, most likely by the time the space is done with you, you look at yourself in the mirror and you forget who you are. So one step or one skill set that you must have in developing or finding your personal identity, you must ask yourself, who are you? Who are you? And this question most often is something that a lot of people have looked for identity everywhere. But for me, I found it that when I started searching for my personal identity in God who created me, I found it. That's why I was able to step out of politics 6 months actively being there. I stepped out because I understood who I was. So you can't find your personal identity if you don't understand who created you and what he created you for. Because that is the only way you can find your true identity. The person that created you is the person that is supposed to guide you. Therefore, one skill set is that you must ask he that created you, why did you create me? And for what was I born for? Unlike just following the trends, this one is in agriculture, you want to advocate. Agriculture advocate. SDG advocate. Yes, that is beautiful. That is great. The question is, you see, I have been seeing this trend. Millennial advocates, no, rights advocate. The person within a year will become an advocate of everything, climate change, Chaco Bena advocate. What? Then I'm wondering, saying, who are you? Because you're trying to fit everywhere. But let me tell you, if you focus on who you are and where your strength, my mentor told me that don't go against the current. I was like, what do you mean? Don't go against the current. There are things that God has naturally endowed in us that make us do things easy. They are our own advantages. For example, for me, speaking is a natural inborn talent. I don't struggle with it. Imagine now I'm in a space where I'm forcing myself to create a code to become a programmer. That is not my area. I'm not that creative in that space. But when it comes to speaking, oh my God, we'll speak the entire night. Even the following day, we'll do the speaking. I will not get tired. If I want to hook the audience, I'll hook them. But come, let me create a website. My dear, I'll fail to do that. So that other people don't have. And build on those talents. Build on that strength. Build on that ability, because when you go against the current, you easily get tired. And the current is going to carry you through where you don't want to end up in your life. So build where the current is flowing.
When you're speaking, you reminded me of a quote that said, the instant gratification or the trendy stuff won't have any long-term effect, and the non-trendy stuff or the delayed gratifications will have long-term effects. What do I mean? If you do stuff that are not trendy, like if you do the opposite of what everybody's doing, it means that you have more likely to have your long-term effect or your long-term success steady than people that are doing trendy stuff. For somebody that was in a space and isn't in a space, I always like to tell people that I hope you get to experiment. But then when you stop experimenting, you have to know when you're going to stop experimenting and exploring certain stuff. Because you can't be on every trend that's happening. You have to find a little bit of stability. And I'm talking about this a lot because I have people reach out to me and they'll be like, I want to be on your podcast. When it's the other way around, I get to be like, okay, great, you speak to my assistant. She's the one that deals with people, right? Because I don't want to be the one to say no. Unfortunately, I like to please people. So I'll be like, oh my goodness, speak to my assistant, because I know she'll say no. But one thing I realized with the trend of wanting to be on a podcast and speak is you're not an expert on anything. At one thing, you're an expert on a lot of stuff. It means on other end, we have to figure out what you're good at, or what's trending, or what it would make sense. And I always feel bad about saying no, because I'm like, but you'd be so amazing, she's so bright. But I'm like, this is not an expert conversation. This is just somebody that has their hand in so many things that they can't pick, and then picking their brain is going to be a lot for us on the other side preparing for this episode. So yeah, it's such an interesting thing. But I'm glad. I also think I'm glad people are doing something, even if it's trendy or not. My favorite trend is a lot of people, young people joining in politics, which is something I'm not against, right? It's if you want to join into politics and you're going to give us a really great manifesto, you know what you're talking about. Not that you're just a young person and we should vote for you. I have been in so many disagreements with people where they're like, oh, because young people need a space on the table. And I'm like, okay, great, you need a space on the table to do what? You need a chance. Okay, tell us what you do when you have that chance. Like, do you have the knowledge, the expertise, the experience? And this isn't to say that the older people that have been in those positions had those things. But for you as a young person, when you represent us in those positions, it means if anything goes wrong, if you do one slight thing, they'll say all young people are a problem. So you're representing a bunch that people don't already trust. And if you don't go there with the most, not pure, but with good intentions, it means if anything goes wrong, it's going to be you. It's just not going to be you. It's going to be everybody else. And for me, I would always like to say, if you're a young person, don't be entitled that you deserve to be in a certain space. Work towards being in that space. Again, we need more young people in politics. We would like people that understand the type of pressures we have. But do you also understand the game of politics, how it works, what's in those offices, how do those offices work? Like every system has a way it works. Do you understand it? Because we don't want to throw you to the wolves. Then you come back and be like, oh my goodness, you threw me to the wolves, I'm dying. So it's a very interesting trend. It's a very interesting trend, eh? Like I love to see it. I'm in the middle, like what's going on, but I love to see it. It's either we're doing this at our own will or we're being used to be in those positions. And I think we're not having those conversations enough. Where am I in this position because I'm being used to be in it? Or it's my will and I know exactly where I would like to have impact in the smallest way, in the biggest way. And sometimes it's just, politics isn't just the elections, it's also just the different forms of politics that are happening. And it's an election year in Zambia, so there's different forms of politics that are happening. I think it's very wise to watch them play out. On my end, I'm an observer, so I watch them play out in different forms, in different ways, with different individuals, the big dogs, the small fish, the big fish. Like the people in the middle, the people at the far end, like what's really going on? What's the trend about? But yeah, it's very, I don't know about you, but it's very interesting for me. And I also saw you were part of the people that were in the trend. And I was like, I forgot to ask, by the way. But I was like, okay, this is so interesting. Because then I would count to say, I know these type of people that are in, that are trying to...
Honorable.
I have
Yes.
another friend. I'm always like, Honorable, how are you doing? But yeah, so you also noticed the trends. What's your take on it? Like, is it something in the atmosphere, or is it just something that's going to fade even after this general election, or it's something that might continue?
It's going to fade. With time, it's going to fade because, you see, our politics have changed. A lot of people think because they are failed in life, they're trying to find a way where they can become financially buoyant. That is why a lot of young people are jumping into the thing. A lot of young people want to be called honorable when they're not really honorable.
Yeah.
So how do I foresee the future of a lot of young people that are not ready for the space? A lot of them are going to commit crime. Because you see, it's easy when you have not... Remember our definition for leadership. If you can't lead yourself, you don't expect to lead the masses. Some of the young people are already in debt. Like literally they are in debt. Then they enter the space where they want to be in charge of national resources. Imagine the chaos. Imagine the chaos. Because
Yeah.
here is a fact: you have access to a lot of government projects. You have access to them. So if you have not developed the discipline to say no to certain things, definitely the arm of the law is going to find you. And now we'll be saying, no, they're trying to fight politicians. No. Every action has what? A result. When you steal, the arm of the law is going to find you. When you misuse your office, the arm of the law is going to find you. And when the arm of the law finds you, you are not expected to complain that they're just trying to fight you because you're in politics. Young people as well haven't understood the fact that freedom of expression when misused will end you up in problems. So it's a trend. Just because we can speak English, we're thinking we can lead. Yes, there are those that have the capacity to lead. They're in the right space. Like I said,
And
ask
also have
yourself,
the
are you?
vision.
Yes, have a
Yeah.
vision. Yes, have a vision. What do you want to do for the people? When they ask you, yes, say, we are young people, they ask you, what are you going to do? So it's not just about joining politics. The question is, are you ready for the office? Because most often we're thinking, just because we have seen someone becoming financially buoyant because they occupy a position, even us, we're considering that as a route to us becoming financially buoyant. But listen, when you join without working on your character, that will become a recipe for you going to prison. Because the arm of the law will always find you. And once you misuse your office, you're definitely not going to escape that. When the law finds you, people will be saying, no, they're fighting this young person because he's into politics. It doesn't work like that. So the first thing that you must do is ask yourself, do you have a track record? And this is what they do in China. You can't be a leader without a track record. What have you accomplished at a personal level? Because we don't want mediocre people to be occupying these positions. You saw what happened when people were being interviewed by the ECZ. People barely could communicate effectively. So those are the people that are vying for political positions. If a person can't even discipline themselves to acquire the right papers that they need, what do you expect they're going to do in public offices? That's why we're failing to penetrate the global market, because we're producing mediocre politicians. There's one person that even dropped out of school to vie for a political position. Imagine, no degree, no what? That say, no, I'm going to stand for political office. And they were just remaining with a semester. Wow. So sometimes it's not that we are against young people vying for these positions. What is the intention? What is the vision? What are you going to do differently? If you can't answer that question, you have no right to vie for political office, because it's not a gateway to success. It's not a gateway to riches. Because by the end of the day, coming from a legal background, the law will always find you and will be glad to defend you or facilitate you going to prison.
I like the things you've mentioned. I don't even think it should just be young people. It should be anyone that is in politics. Like, give us your track record of exactly what you have accomplished in a certain area and what you'd like to do as a politician. Like, why do we always just have to vote for anybody? Like, why do we? And people might come for me, but as a country, we also like trends. Like, we voted for
Very
a
much.
song, we voted for a song, we voted for a slogan. At this point, none of us can actually pretend that we don't know this happens. But we can't be having the same problems all the time. we can't. And those are like honest conversations we need to have. Is young people, as we are getting into this space, do we want to get into it like everybody else that has gotten into it? Do we want to do the same thing? If we're going to do the same thing, it means even 100 years later, we will still have the same problems. And as a country, we will not grow. So yeah, just having these honest conversations to say, okay, yes, you're a young person, but exactly what are you going to do? Like, what qualifications do you have? Like, at least have a degree, guys. Like, you can't be going in these offices hiring people and you don't even have the basics.
Imagine.
We should really change our qualifications, because we can't be having people that are handling resource allocation, planning of a country, because that's done in phases, not have basic knowledge on certain things. No. So yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And I like your take on it, by the way. I would like us to talk about a transition that you made. You went from being in nuclear power engineering to public speaking and law. What made you make that decision to transition?
What made me transition from nuclear power engineering and getting into law is because I found myself. So in my second year, I started asking myself questions like I did. What is my identity? Where do I want to go after this? I discovered that going against my current, insofar I was passing, I was one of the best students in my nuclear power engineering course. But that did not guarantee that I was going to enjoy the things that I was doing. I wanted to enjoy the things that I was doing. As such, for a long time, I wanted to do law, but because of trying to get on every opportunity that came around, I did nuclear power engineering, and I understood it was the most important step of my life, that I needed to build a track record of what I wanted to, where I wanted to go, and what I wanted to accomplish by the end of the day. What made me transition was because I understood that we are a developing country, of which the last legislation that was done was in 2025, which was the legislation on general mining. But specifically regarding nuclear power engineering or nuclear uranium mining was done in 2008, which means for a long time, we haven't had laws that address the extraction of uranium in our country. And after coming back and acquiring a degree in nuclear power engineering, the jobs that were promised to us were actually not given to us. So I asked myself, what should I do next? Should I sit and start complaining like everyone else? Or I should take a different route, which means I can influence the decision making regarding my industry. That's why I went for law, in order to contribute to the legislative aspect of this country and where we want to see our country go in terms of uranium energy or nuclear energy. That was what fostered the transition. Regarding communication is the way to go. And for us, it's a gold mine which every person needs. As long as a person needs to do something tangible in life, they'll always find themselves wanting access to such services, which are in communication executives, because these are things that are never taught in school. Public speaking, effective communication, etiquettes are never taught in school. Sometimes, some schools are doing that. But most likely, 3/4 worldwide, they don't do these things. And which is the most important side of our lives, because we always find ourselves communicating. So the transition into communication business was because I saw the opportunity to impact lives and also make money.
What advice would you give somebody that wants to transition from one sector to another?
It's not the easiest to do anyway. It's not easy. It's not easy because, look at, I was given, when I completed my first degree, I was given a scholarship to do masters in nuclear power engineering and thermophysics at one of the best universities in the world, which is Moscow Power Engineering Institute. So me making a decision to let go of that scholarship and start paying for myself a second degree, which means I needed to spend 4 years in school again. When my friends did their masters for 2 years, right now they are literally about to complete their PhD. By the time I'm graduating with my second degree, my friends are being called doctors. Imagine the pain.
Yeah.
How beautiful it feels to be called a doctor. Oh my God. Dr. Vala, how are you at this age? There's something that is so beautiful. So a lot of people are going to question the transition. And sometimes it may not even be comfortable for you. I've been going to school when my friends are advancing. But the question is, do you really enjoy what you're doing? Other people will say you don't have to enjoy it as long as it's making you money. But life is too short to do something that you don't enjoy. Because you always find yourself admiring and being uncomfortable with other people's progress because they enjoy what they're doing. Work occupies the largest part of our lives. You go for work in the morning, you knock off sometimes 18 hours, 19 hours. You go back, your home or your house literally becomes just a place where you sleep. So if you're not enjoying what you're doing, what are you doing? So transitioning is not the easiest thing to do. But if you are convicted about the step that you have to take, please make the decision. And not everyone is going to agree with you. My parents asked me, are you okay? You just acquired your degree. Use it, find employment. Just go direct, find work. But the question is, am I truly into the thing or I want to do something different? I made the decision and right now they're proud of me that I made that decision because of the things that I've accomplished over time. So sometimes they will not understand you. But if that transition is needed, you have to make that decision and be bold to understand that certain decisions deserve you to take action.
True. Like I think you and I are the same when it comes to making decisions. I just make certain decisions because I'm trying to see the future, and I know that if I go in this path, it's nothing for me. I do need a different path, and because I do need a different path, I need to go about it differently. So that makes a lot of sense. It's going to be uncomfortable. They're not going to agree with you for like 2 years, but they'll eventually come around, which is something I'm always grateful for. What advice would you give your younger self?
Advice that I would give my younger self is, Vala, reduce the time between idea and execution. When the idea is still hot, jump on it and get the ball rolling. Because that is one of the things that has prevented us from harnessing opportunities. Imagine writing a book at 35 is something that is considered normal. You are an adult, you can write a book at 35. But let's flip the coin. You write a book at 19, 20. You'll be celebrated as one of the most vibrant young person that is doing phenomenal things because your age mates are doing something different. They're on TikTok, they're dancing, twerking, and you are doing something to contribute to the literature of the world. So there are a lot of times that I took a long time to execute my ideas, which made me lose certain opportunities. So the advice that I would give my younger self is, Vala, reduce the period between idea and execution.
Makes a lot of sense. I think that's the same advice I would give myself now. Yeah, I'll probably remind myself to reduce the time between planning and execution. Well, Mr. Vala, I would like to give you an opportunity to ask me a question.
Aka, after knowing you... I look forward to this chance. I
Oh,
really
I'm
look
about
forward
to
to this chance.
cry. Gosh,
Okay,
God.
no problem. So
Go
imagine,
ahead, please.
Aka, I have seen that insofar you are a young person, but there are things that leave me puzzled. For example, how do you harness opportunities? I know you have worked for Unilas, your company, your ideas, the podcast. What makes you different? I was expecting to see you twerking, dancing on TikTok, being that original young person like everyone, right? But when I
Oh my
look at
gosh.
your life, I see intentionality. So what makes you behave in that manner and just getting ready to announce opportunities?
I think it's a vision I have for my life. Again, maybe I do what other young people do. I just don't post it per se. Like guys, I was at the Davido concert. Obviously, I'm one of those few people that
Yes.
that had that had fun, right? Like I wouldn't say I'm very different. But I've just come to not publicize my life and the amount of access people have on me. And I think you know this. And I don't shy away from telling people that because you're not my friend, you will not have access to me in this way. And I will not let you. I think it's something we fail to say it because we're trying to be nice, but it's unkind for me to let everybody have access. So that's one thing that has made me different. And this came about before COVID. Was it before or during COVID? I got bullied online. They called me names on Facebook. And I decided to go offline everywhere for like 2 years.
Wow.
So I felt like everybody had so much access in my life. Everybody knew a lot about me. Like, I'm posting where I am regularly. I'm posting what I'm wearing. And Lusaka is such a small city. And when you step out of the house, someone will be like, I saw you. How did you see me? Oh, no, that's the outfit you posted on WhatsApp. That's the outfit you posted on Facebook. So
Yes.
that made me very anxious in that season. And because I became very anxious and paranoia, then the bullying came. And during COVID, I felt like at one point we were all friends because we're all hanging out with each other before COVID. Then we're not friends because now you get to realize that friendship comes in different levels and there's intentionality. And I just felt like I was home the whole time and didn't have friends. My family is amazing, by the way, but there was just that gap. So my rebrand was just I excused myself from everything. I am a type of person that removes myself. Like, I will remove myself. Like, when you people are still thinking about it, if I just say, oh, this is not for me, I might not have conversations with a few individuals that it might affect, but I would just remove myself. And when you are trying to build something, it's very important, I think I mentioned this earlier, to know which environments bring the best out of you, which environments bring the worst out of you. And because I
Yes.
have done a few stuff, I've explored in different ways early on in my 20s. I know which environments bring the best out of me, which environments don't, and which environments induce me anxiety, and which people I want to be around and which people I don't. So I also like to tell people I'm not a groupie. I'm a fun person to be around, but for you to be around me is where the problem is. Because when you meet me, you're like, oh no, maybe she's not that nice or she's not that kind. I think I'm very kind, nice, very relative, but it's just those little things that then get to add up, right? Which environments do I want to be? Which people do I want to be with? Which not? Which calls will I make? Which calls will I not? And some people even know that when I call them, it's business. Like, I rarely, apart from my friends, I rarely just jump on a call with somebody and talk. So I got to also realize that the lack of access to me made me more valuable. I have this conversation with Eunice all the time, where the time I just remove myself from an environment, I become more valuable, because you always think that anyone can do that, but not everybody
Yes.
can. So I got to learn that very quickly, that every time it's just a game I play anyway. I just remove myself and I become more valuable. Like, try it. Be in an environment and remove yourself. So
Wow.
every time I know that if I'm attending an event, I told myself, like, I'll rarely pay for an event. I have to be invited to attend an event. Or I'll
Yes.
just attend a free event. Like, it's okay to attend a free event. Like, why am I paying 500 to listen to people talk the whole day?
Mm.
It
Mm-hmm.
And those are things I really intentionally had to make. Imagine paying 500 every month that's 6,000, right? Yeah, that's
Yes.
6,000. You could start a business with that, right? Sometimes you have to reach a point where, do I really need to pay for this rent or not? And that's what made me that's why I'm not a very trendy person. And most of my friends and close colleagues always go like, yeah, I see you once a year. And I'm like, I intentionally make sure you see me once a year at one event, because I can't be everywhere. What time am I going to work? I also don't have
Yes.
unlimited resources. So that's why, like, it's just something I do on my end to just manage myself and my energy. If I'm really tired, I'm not really good company. But I realized that the less access people had to me, the more valuable I have. A few people can reach me. Like, if a phone call comes, I answer a few phone calls. Like, there are certain people where, for example, your wife. If your wife calls, I'll pick up. You know what I mean? Because we're friends and we understand each other at that level.
Yes.
And she can actually get me on a call. I think she's one of the few people that can get me on a call for like 2 hours, and I won't be bothered that I'm talking to this person. Other people, I'm always like, it's very courteous for you to just get to the point of what you want. I am busy, I am not busy. Like, just get to the point of what you want. Like, just tell me how I can help you. I know it sounds very rude, but I think in the world we live in, it's very courteous to just get to the point at any given time.
Yes.
Just get to the point. Like, I get it, but how may I help you? How may I be at service? And this is why even when I call other people, or when I'm communicating to other people, I get straight to the point. It's my friends where I'm like, hi, how are you? I'm fine. What are you doing? Other people, I'm just like, hi, I saw this and this and that. Could you please do this and that and that? Very straight to the point. And it's just, I think you've experienced me, and I think we're having, was it lunch or dinner? We're having food for the first time on that day. I was hanging out with you and your friends and family. And one of them said, I actually didn't know that Aka is such a fun person to be around. That was Cosmos. He actually texted me again and said, I still can't believe you're such a fun person to be around. And I said, yeah, but one more person now I have to consider a friend, because now you've seen the part of me where you're like, no, bruh, I want the other side of you. But as somebody that wants to grow a business, grow a brand, I realized that having less people that know me is the best decision I have. Having people that have access to me, like, people have limited access. Like, my family has full access. Certain friends have full access. Everybody else has limited access. And I've made peace with that. And that's what makes me very intentional. And every time I experience people, I try to be as kind as possible. But I always tell them that with me, I'd like you to get straight to the point. Because I don't want to think of one more person that I just have in my inbox saying hi. I think that we live in a very transactional world, unfortunately, but I always like to be at service, because I know that I'm good at what I do. Like, I'm really good. If you get to experience me as a friend, I'm a really good friend, but as a professional as well, I'm really good. Like, you can give me anything that I'm an expert in, and I'll be like, let's do this way and that way. And it might not work out, but it always works out. So yeah, like, I think it's just access. It says that I answered that so long, but yeah.
Not a problem. Not a problem. It's I love the fact that you spoke about the aspect of people having access to you. It gets us into a mode where we're desperately needing people's approval about what we do, our way of life, ever posting and
Yeah,
determining our relevance in terms of likes. So if they give you
yeah,
4 likes, you're like, okay, let me create something that will be more appealing, that is going to trend online. Before you know it, you're
yeah.
taking away the true experience from the places that you find yourself. I remember even the last time that we went out, we didn't take any pictures. And we're like,
You know
let's
what?
experience this moment because
I was so upset. I could write a whole speech about that day. But no, guys, our phones were off that day. Ish. Yeah, please continue.
no, but sometimes it's important to just experience moments because sometimes Aka, we take away the true essence of a moment by ensuring that everyone that even is not there, is not part of the conversation, they see they have their own opinion about our lives. Before you know it, everyone knows everything about you, your
Yeah,
failures, your successes, which is not supposed to be the case. People start feeling entitled to be
like
informed
they need,
about what
yeah.
you're doing.
I think that I also mentioned this to somebody that was like, you don't post, right? Like you never post. And I was like, to be honest, I even feel like I overshare. Like you don't. And this person gave me like a whole breakdown of why they think I'm very antisocial. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And to be honest, this is the most social I can get. And to other people, it still feels like I'm so closed up. But one thing I mentioned to that person was
Wow.
I don't
Wow.
like people knowing who my friends are. And this stems from a fact that I have this brother. He was very famous. I think now he's laid back, but he's a very good professional and expert. He brought me in these different spaces. He gets credit for most of my work, right? Like if anyone knows me personally, they know who that brother is. And because he was very famous at one point in Zambia, and everybody knew that I was his sibling, like I'm his baby sister. And he's married now, he has a kid. I have a nephew. My nephew is so cute. Anyway, moving on. Everybody would always ask me about him. Can I have this person's number? Can I reach out? And I became like an intermediary. Like, oh, this person is asking for your number. This person. And I realized that most people were friends with me because of that person. And I was in that person's light or shadow, which I don't mind. He's amazing. I would like to be protected by him. But it made me again very insecure as a person to say, are people friends with me or they're trying to get to him? People still ask for his number, but it's not as much as it was then. Because intentionally I just said, I've stopped posting you. You, your wife, I have stopped posting. Like when I stopped posting myself, I also stopped posting him. We stopped posting each other. I think he's one of those siblings. I'll be like, please don't post me. He's you know that post where they say, tell them I sent you. Yes. He's that person where like, you tell this person I told you to do this. And guys, I get things done so quickly when I use his name. But because people were just getting in my face with him and trying to get to him through me, I needed to now cut everybody's access to me so that people don't try to get to him through me. So a few people still know that relationship to know like, oh, this person exists and they're actually related. Because I just stopped posting about it. I only post him on his birthday. And when he posts my nephew, when I reshare and post my nephew, yeah, that's the only time I post him like, oh guys, we have a baby. But other than that, I got to test it very quickly. And also, even when I was growing up, there was always that access thing where you're coming from a well-known family in a small town. Everybody wants to know your business. You're the youngest. Everybody's older than you. They're well-known. So they try to get to people through you. And I always say this to my friends. Let people not try to get to me through you. Cut it then and there. To just say, oh my goodness, do you want to reach out? All right. If she will help, I'll let her know. if she can't do it, she'll probably recommend somebody. Very important. Like, yes, they know our friends, but just cut it off. Like, just be like, okay, great, let me ask her. So no one is always allowed to give my number. Like, if it's business, it's money, yes, but anything else is just a stretch. And I always tell people, let's connect on LinkedIn. Let's have our conversation on LinkedIn. And if I feel like you can have my number, but also have my email address. So it's a lot of those little things where I'm glad I learned them early, and it serves me in so many ways. Where quickly, I'm just like, no. And I think a lot of my friends know that now, where I'm just like, I look at you and I'm like, no, not for me, but thanks. So yeah.
Have you said that one of these days you should be hosted on the podcast?
You know what? I was hosted on the podcast last
Yes.
year, and I feel like I talked too much. And that's the thing, right? I think that I talk about these things very publicly, even on my podcast. I don't think my podcast
You
is
talk
that
too
famous
much?
either. I talk too much. And I feel like access. I try to fuse what I say half of the time. I'm talking too much because I know you as well. And I'm comfortable. But I'm always like, if I'm on a podcast, I have to be guarded. Then I stop being guarded. Then I talk. Then people are like, that was amazing. And I'm just like, damn, that could be used against me in the future and I become rich.
Not really.
No, Solomon. I am one person that will, when I get rich, guys, again, heavy on access. Heavy on access, guys. When I can afford proper systems where only a few people can access me, I'm gone. It's like, I'll keep my friends, I'll keep my family. I won't even be on social media. Even things are posted. Like, I'll have my podcast, I'll have my work, but the world around me will still just be, I'll have the information that I need to have to make decisions. But I think that there's just so much going around that makes me not to focus. So yeah, heavy on access. I really don't know how that's going to look like. I hope I change my mind. But yeah.
We're waiting for you to change your mind because we need access. We need people to connect to you through us.
Well, all the best. I'm just gonna close this. I don't want to be quoted, but thank you so much, Solomon. I had so much fun having you on the podcast. I think that it's such a different delight in a different way and different conversation that has really just, we've talked about everything and anything I'd like to talk about, which is something I really appreciate about you, and just that you're a master in communication and how diverse you are as a leader. We need more young people like that. Or maybe we should say we need more men like that. Yeah, we should, eh? Guys, the world would be a better place. But anyway, my last question to you.
Thank you so much, Aka. It has been a beautiful.
My last question to you is, what do you look forward to?
So what I look forward to at this stage of my life is growing the Valas Training Institute, not only as a local training institute, but an institute that is going to make worldwide impact. In that, communication transcends beyond the borders, the confinements of our Zambian borders. I understand I've stood on global stages under Toastmasters, but I'm looking forward to a phase where we can bring different countries on board and compete in terms of speeches, communication, and just bridging the gap. That, I feel, is going to unite a lot of professionals and understanding different cultures as we progress in terms of effective communication. That is what I look forward to, and understand that one day we'll get there, but the most important thing is enjoying the things that we're doing. I think that is one of the most important things. The other thing is that I understand that sometimes life may be too short. we may not be there to accomplish everything about our vision, but one thing that I've learned to appreciate is living in the moment. So as all these visions one forward to more impact under the Valor, I also look forward to living every moment as it comes.
That is so lovely. Thank you so much for being part of my community, being part of the podcast community. I do appreciate the time and the conversation, the laughters that we've shared in this moment. It's always great to amplify someone like you's voice because I think we need to have more of these conversations that might sound very unscripted, but are scripted, and we're just living in the moment and enjoying. So Solomon, thank you so much for being part of this community and just gracing us with your presence. For everybody listening to the podcast, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had such a good laugh. I did. And I hope you can share this with a friend who is trying to figure out where they are in life and trying to build their communication. I think that this would be one of the stepping stones to enjoy that or to learn more about communication and how somebody can be a better leader. Please do follow the Valas Training in Solomon Valor everywhere so you can learn more about his work and the organization and how best you can become an amazing public speaker. Please follow and share and subscribe everywhere you're listening to this. With that being said, thank you so much, Solomon, and thank you so much to everybody that's been listening.
Thank you.
Bye for now.